been a very dear friend, managing director at the India Center. And I'm glad to see, an audience which is Indian and global. And we will be talking about life lessons from Chanakya. Friends, there's always a saying that you may know many subjects, but you should be a master of one subject. So jack of all trades, master of none. So it's better to know all subjects, but be master of one. But interestingly, the person that we are going to speak about, Chanakya, knew one subject which includes all subjects. Okay, so he is talking about a subject called Arthashastra, and many people translate it as political science. So Arthashastra is not just political science, but includes political science. So Chanakya is a person, if you study him, you study all subjects. Now that is the beauty of learning from a polymath like Chanakya. Who is a polymath? He is a interdisciplinary and a multidisciplinary kind of a thinker. Interdisciplinary is when two disciplines come together and we try to collaborate. Multidisciplinary is when you have different disciplines coming together. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to one of the greatest thinkers that the world has ever seen. One of the greatest political thinkers called Chanakya. And my presentation, even though without a PowerPoint, I will be talking about two aspects of Chanakya. And as our flyer also says, one is the life lessons. So I'm going to be talking about, number one, the life of Chanakya. And second, what are the lessons from the life of Chanakya? So let me quickly introduce you to Chanakya. And I'm sure in India, he's a very, very popular person, very popular character. And it is said that, there is a Chanakya in each one of us. So we're very, known for certain strategies connected to Chanakya, like Samadhana, Danda, Bheda, then enemy is a friend, and many other strategies and policies that he spoke about. But if you quickly look into the life of Chanakya, he lived in India in the 4th century BC, which is roughly 2,400 years ago from today. He was born in a place called as Patliputra, which is modern day Patna. And during those days, it was part of the Magad kingdom. Today, we can call it the state of Bihar. His claim to fame was that he was a kingmaker of Chandragupta Maurya, a student of his. So Chanakya was a teacher, and he created a lot of leaders. And he was also responsible for defeat of Alexander when he came to India. He defeated one of the very powerful kings, Dhananand, who was the king of the Nanda dynasty during those days, and replaced him by Chandragupta Maurya. And of course, there are a lot of life lessons from him. But I think my personal aspect of Chanakya, which I love the most, is his documentation skills. So as a teacher, as an acharya, all his strategies have been documented in 2 books, which he wrote. One is called the Kautilya's Arthashastra, and the second one is Chanakya Neeti. So many people ask me, what is the difference between Kautilya's Arthashastra and Chanakya Neeti? I said, Kautilya Arthashastra is a book for leaders, and Chanakya Neeti is a book for the common man. So if I were to use Sanskrit words, one is Rajavidya, Arthashastra, and Chanakya Neeti is Prajavidya. So we are not trying to keep it secret from a common man. But if you want to be successful as a common man, then Chanakya Neeti is for you. If you want to be successful as a leader, Kautilya's Arthashastra for you. And the journey is also reverse. If a common man wants to become a leader, along with Chanakya Neeti, please study Kautilya's Arthashastra. My lifelong research for the last 20 years has been on these 2 books. Of course, I did my PhD in this particular subject, and we have a university of Mumbai having an institute called Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies, where we teach this as a formal master's degree program and all that. But the point over here is that I did it from an aspect of connecting the past wisdom of Chanakya to the present situation, and especially in the business scenario and the modern day scenario. And I discovered something amazing, that Chanakya's wisdom is not ancient. Chanakya's wisdom is eternal. Yeah, it's not just ancient, it's eternal. So the principles that Chanakya spoke about can be used in today's generation as well. So I would not get into too much of life of Chanakya, because even though he's a historical personality, we have a lot of references of him actually being part of the Indian making it one of the richest part of the globe. And there are many different stories distorted, some of them about the life of Chanakya. But I would like to focus more on the knowledge part of Chanakya. And that's where I would mention more about Kautilya's Arthashastra and his book Chanakya Neeti. It is said, and we have a very beautiful university and a B school over here. It is said that in school, children are taught. In school, children are taught. So, they don't know how to read and write. So the teachers make sure that, they learn a lot of things. So at school, you are taught. In college, you're supposed to learn. You're no more a child. You've come out of your teenage days and you're trying to be more matured. And learning is something that you have to adapt into your life in your colleges. But when you go to university, okay, you're supposed to do two things: research and thinking. Yes, as you go higher and higher, it is a research that matters. And here is a person called Chanakya who actually did phenomenal research in the subject that he's known for, that is strategy. So let me quickly try to sum up 3 life lessons of Chanakya, which I'm going to expand. So I'm going to tell you these 3 life lessons that will be our takeaway for the day. The first life lesson of Chanakya is everybody should think like a leader. Yes, so Chanakya made sure everybody thinks like a leader. The second is perform as a leader. Yes, you have to perform as a leader. And the third one is leader is the one who creates more leaders. Yes, leader is the one who creates more leaders. And if you look at all the 3 points that I'm going to be covering, everything is connected with leadership. Yes, I think in the academic world also, slowly we are seeing that, yes, we need to have technical competencies. No doubt we need to have technical competencies, skills. But as you go higher and higher, you see you need to also develop managerial skills. And therefore we say from technicality move to the management world. And today we are saying that, from managers also evolve into leaders. And there's a lot of discussions. And whenever I visit US, I find this as a very, very different discipline that's coming out and saying that management and leadership and management, the next level is leadership, etc., etc., etc. But one of the finest examples that I heard about the difference between management and leadership is in Stephen Covey's very famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he mentions over there by saying, the manager is the one who learns to climb the ladder fast. And leader is the one who asks whether the ladder is on the right wall. So it's a very, very interesting terminology that, management is about productivity, efficiency, numbers. But you may achieve your numbers, but suddenly you realize the place is absolutely wrong. So leadership is about the vision. And that's why leaders create the future. So I'm not here to tell that, what is the difference between management and leadership in that sense. So every leader has to be a manager and every manager is a leader, but just trying to differentiate. But today's focus for me would be on the space of leadership. So let me start with the first point. Everybody should think like a leader. Now, surprisingly, we are in an era, a generation globally, okay, where somewhere everybody's talking about entrepreneurship. People are talking about the startup culture, and even retired people are coming back and starting their own companies and becoming advisors, consultants. So what does it mean? And I've been seeing this as a global phenomenon. Wherever we go, we are talking not only in India. Of course, in India, it's a very big happening place with a market that's expanding. But somewhere people are going to the next level and they're discussing some phenomenal subjects, which is connected to leadership. So I go to some of the best education institutions in India and abroad, and specifically find people are talking about what's your next big idea. But I remember it was always about where is the next big job. So from job searching, you're just thinking about exploring ideas and talking about making a business plan and approaching a venture capitalist or an angel investor. All this is becoming very common in the young generation. And my question over is that even though you may be thinking like a leader or at least an entrepreneur to begin with, are you actually trained to be a leader? And that's very, very important, because see, what is happening is that with the era that we are all born in, there are a lot of ideas that keep coming in, and today information is absolutely floating everywhere free of cost. and we can just, at the tip of a finger trying to know what's happening globally. So information is not really a problem in our generation. And sometimes it goes to the other extent of misinformation and information pollution. So we have to be careful about it, whether, the information that we are getting is, whether it's overloaded, whether it's right or wrong, false news, fake news. But definitely we are an interesting generation where we can gather information, and very important, in real time. But the question remains that, everybody wants to do something different, but are you trained to be a leader? And this is where Chanakya's first life lesson comes in. Chanakya believed that everybody has got a leadership potential, but a potential is not enough. Potential has to go on to execution as well. So let us look at a simple example, and maybe a famous example from India, Sachin Tendulkar. He's known as god of cricket, and he made the highest number of centuries and runs in first class cricket, etc., etc. And of course, he's got the highest civilian honor in India called Bharat Ratna. And a lot of people follow him. I've been fortunate to actually work with a company where his sports manager has to work for WorldTel, a company almost 20 years ago, which actually gave the first big deal to Sachin Tendulkar. So why am I quoting Sachin Tendulkar? Sachin Tendulkar was a born cricketer, as people say, So his brother identified and spotted the talent in him. So there's a talent in him, but that is not enough. Then he was trained, mentored by his elder brother, of course, and also his coach, Ramakant Achrekar. And then a person like Dilip Vensarkar, another great cricketer from India, gave him an opportunity to get into the Indian cricket team. And that's where his journey starts. So even though you may think like a leader, so in India, a popular sports cricket, everybody wants to get into the sports team, the national team, but that's not enough. So you need to have this process. The first step is that you should have it in you. So Sachin Tendulkar had it in him, then he got training, and of course he got an opportunity. Can you connect that to the space of leadership? So I think everybody has got that particular talent in him or her to be a leader. And as I told you today, thinking like a leader is not really a challenge because everything is available. Yet, after thinking like a leader, what's the next process? Get trained. And our university over here is also offering so many courses, programs, which will help you to think like a leader. Well, that's where education comes in a very big space. The training, the education, like universities that keeps offering us, it's very important to get yourself trained as a leader, not just think like a leader. But then after that, what? I may be a trained leader, but I need to have some position of power. In fact, it is said, what is a king without a kingdom? So if you want to make anybody a king, first hand over him or her a kingdom. That's very important. And we see that in a lot of business communities, especially we have, some of the very good business communities in India, the Gujaratis, the Marwadis, the Kachis, the Sindhis. And second, third generation, you find that, when the children are matured enough, they study in, global universities like ours, and then they go back, the father will say, okay, this is your little kingdom. So this is the little funds I'm giving you. Now start your business. And once they show their capability, then you say, okay, come up to the group company. So what's very important to know is that after getting the training of leadership, it's important to give the position of leadership. It doesn't matter whether it's a small kingdom or a big kingdom, but a leader requires a kingdom to express himself or herself. So where do I connect this with the life of Chanakya? Think about this. He identified Chandragupta Maurya, a boy from very ordinary background. In fact, it is said that he was from a very common village. His mother was a domestic help, kind of a servant. But talent doesn't look at the place of birth or who your parents are. So the great teacher Chanakya saw the little boy. So identification of talent, what we call as identification of leadership qualities. So everybody has it, don't worry about it. But you require a Chanakya to identify it. After that, he actually trained Chandragupta Maurya. Yes, he trained him and of course make him capable. Without training, if you go and just play the game, definitely you are leading to disaster. So you may be the most talented, but training is equally important. So Chandragupta Maurya identified as a talent, trained as a leader, and most important, he gave him the power position, made him the king of what we call the United India during those days, the Bharat Varsha. So first thing, think like a leader, but not enough. We need to get trained like a leader and get the position of leader. So friends, this is where exactly the life of Chanakya starts. He believed in the concept of leadership, and quoting one of the greatest books of humankind, it's called Mahabharata. And there is a beautiful lesson on leadership. And it says, Raja Kalasya Karanam. As the leader, so the era, so the organization. So wherever you go, friends, you'll all be attending programs, courses, and our university is offering so many beautiful courses. Thanks to Manish ji, thanks to Shukirti ji, and all other, members who are organizers over here. But let me tell you, you need to not just get trained over here, but also go and deliver in your organization. You may get an entry point, but that's not enough. You may get the position of leadership. That's not enough. You need to perform as a leader. This is very, very important. So here comes my second life aspect of Chanakya, life lesson. In leadership position, you have to deliver. Okay. In fact, my spiritual guru, Swami Chinmayananji, used to quote very nicely. He used to say that you may get a position of power. Let's say you're a chairman of a company. Okay, you may get a position of power because of so many reasons. The first reason could be because of hereditary. Maybe your father was a chairman and you are becoming a chairman. And in today's generation, it could be a chairwoman also. So you get it because of hereditary. Sometimes you get it because of, your influence. Oh, okay. So you're identified. Come on, you sit on the chair. Sometimes you bribe it out also. So in many power positions, you see people, sneaking into power. But he was very clear, saying that you may get the position of leadership. But if you're not capable, the chair will not keep you. So you may get the position of leadership, but if you're not capable, the chair will not keep you. So that's the kind of an impact leadership has. You may get it, but if you don't deliver it, you'll be told to get out. And that's where performance-driven leadership matters. What do we learn from Chanakya's life? He trained Chandragupta Maurya, he gave him a power position, but that's not enough. Leaders also require mentors and continuous mentors. Yes. So because it's not saying that, it's very lonely at the top. It's true, yet you don't have to be lonely. You can have a lot of friends with you. You can have a lot of guides with you. You have leadership coaches. And today it's a very famous, officially stylish to say that I'm the CEO and I have a CEO coach. So what is the role of a CEO coach? He or she is actually playing the role of a leadership coach, because when you are out over there, you cannot discuss all the issues with everyone, because it's like it's the peak of a mountain. So everybody else is below you and they all keep looking out to you for your decisions and for your directions. So what do you do? So don't worry. Chanakya has got a solution. He says, be in touch with the experts of various fields. Be in touch with experts of various fields. So when you are in a leadership position, you will have to look at, a decision from multiple dimensions. Maybe a legal dimension, a financial dimension, a branding dimension, a marketing dimension, customer centricity, CSR dimension, government policies. So what do you do? So a good leader is always surrounded by good advisors. Yes, a good leader is always surrounded by good advisors. And the Sanskrit word that Chanakya uses is called as Vriddha Sanyogaha. Okay, Vriddha means elderly, but it's not just elders by age, it's also wise and experienced people. So it's very important that you surround yourself with good people who will help you take a decision. It is said by Chanakya that don't take a decision, arrive at a decision. So don't just take a decision, arrive at a decision. So what is the difference between taking a decision and arriving at a decision? So when data is given to you, you data mine it and you think about, you analyze it and you feel, okay, this is the decision. No. You may be doing data mining, you have all the statistics right, you may have everything right, yet human beings always require conversations. That's a very, very basic necessity of human beings. And that's why we have concepts of brainstorming and boardroom discussions. So get into a boardroom, put up the point and agenda, discuss it out, and you'll be surprised. Then you're not only using your brain, you're using multiple brains. And then everybody gives an input, and suddenly you'll be surprised. Wow, I never thought from this dimension. I missed that particular point. So after that, 4-5 key people who give you inputs, then you don't actually take a decision, you arrive at a decision. And it is clearly told in the Artha Shastra, So that even in an urgent matter, the king should call his ministers and counselors and discuss with them. So it's like a warlike situation. The enemy has attacked. Wait. Now you don't take a decision of counterattacking the enemy. Wait. Call everyone. Urgent meeting, SOS. So, the 10, 15 people arrive and come on, what do you do? What do you do? And believe me, the wise man will tell you this is what's to be done. The experienced man will tell you. The subject matter expert will tell you. So 4 or 5 angles, and then you said, wow, this is what is to be done. Never fight a battle alone. Take some experts with you. Very, very important point in leadership. Never fight a battle alone. Take some experts with you. That's why it's very important in performance of leadership. It's never about you or your brain or your experience. It's about us. It's about those experts who are a part of your advisory board, your coach, your friends, and your advisors. Then along with them, brainstorm, discuss, arrive. And then you'll be surprised, even if you are right. Let me repeat that. Even if your decision is right, make sure it's verified by experts. I've seen a lot of people who are extremely good decision makers, absolutely fantastic decision makers. Yet they will first call up a few people and they say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Am I right? And everybody will say, okay, go ahead. So once the nod is done, then you are confident and then you announce the decision. This whole life of Chanakya was about Vriddha Sanyogaha. Can you believe it? Even Chanakya had his own experts whom he consulted. So it is said that every consultant also has a consultant. Nobody can be, I know all. It's absolutely a myth that you are a super expert. You can't be. In fact, the collaborative mindset is what makes Chanakya. So if you study the Kautilya's Arthashastra, you'll be surprised. He talks about continuous collaboration. So why don't we intellectually collaborate? Today, the world is not about competition. Today's world is about collaboration. In fact, I read a book. I'm not able to recollect the author's name. It's called Deep Work. Very, very famous work. And, they're all researchers. They're sitting out over there and, working towards the next big thing, trying to find out. And the author says something very phenomenal. He says, suppose you're in one field and you're already at the cutting edge research. You're the top of the world in that particular field. So usually what, researchers do, scientists do, they try to make that field better by looking at the next big and the next big and the next big. Let's say a very simple example. Let's say you're in the field of furniture. Okay, and you are already world's number one in creation of the next big design of furniture or technology in furniture. Now, the thing is that you can become one-sided if you only think about furniture. Think about a person from another field who may be a technologist. He may be an automobile engineer. And he should or she should be in that field of cutting edge in his field. So let's say you have an AI person, artificial intelligence person, or maybe a sports person. And he is number one in his field. You are number one in your field. When you collaborate, suddenly you make your field better. Okay, so you not only make your field bigger, you make your field better. In fact, I will like to use a Hindi phrase over here, very beautiful one, which I heard once. Bada mat socho, alag socho. Alag sochoge to bada ho jaoge. What is trying to tell is that don't just think big. Think different. And once you think different, becoming big is very easy. Otherwise, you just get into the number game. And you look at every field. So let us look at automobile, okay? And since I mentioned about that, the industry of automobile, if you look at a car today, okay? I'm not even talking about, the top end Teslas and other models. I'm just telling you, if you look at the car today, the highest amount of investment that is going into a car is not into the metal or the engine. It's actually the technology aspect of it. The software is more important in a car than actually the hardware. Because hardware can be more about a mass production game. So actually the parts is becoming by what we call as the economies of scale cheaper. But it's actually the technology aspects that goes into an automobile that makes it better and better. So automobile industry has got got a lot of input from the artificial intelligence industry. Now look at one of the most happening fields, and pandemic has proven it, especially in India, is the education technology field. Now, if you look at it, edutech, what we call it, is not about being the best teacher. Today, every teacher is to also be a technologist. And a technologist need to collaborate with teachers. and say, I understand technology. I can give you the best Zoom platform with a lot of things, or maybe create a new platform, but I don't understand what you're teaching. So engineering teachers need to collaborate with those people in the space of technology. So that's where the next big thing always happens with collaboration. Going back, leadership. All my friends who are attending this particular session, you all are leaders or will be leaders. Remember one thing, not just leaders, but cutting edge global leaders. And Chanakya has got a very beautiful word for that, and it's called as Vijigishu. When I first heard this, I never realized what is Vijigishu. The person who wants to be a world conqueror. And when we say conquering, it's not about killing. Okay, so conquering doesn't mean killing. Conquering means being the world best in that particular field. And the good news is that there are multiple fields. Okay, so if you can't be a winner in this field, fine, find your field or create your own field. But if you play the game, go for gold. If you play the field and go for gold, not even silver. In fact, I read somewhere, it is said you never win a silver medal. You actually lose a gold medal. So if you want to play the game, then make sure that you are number one in that particular field. And here is where Chanakya trains the mind of a leader to become the global best. Yes, Vijigishu, the global best. And going to statistics, why was India probably one of the richest parts of the world? And it's not just coming out of some patriotic feeling. This is data driven. A lot of researchers have actually proven it. And when I was doing my own research to understand what made India probably the richest part of the world, there are 2-3 things which comes out. Number one, there is something called as Indian knowledge and Indian traditions. So 2 things. Okay? One is the Indian tradition, and I think most of us know about the kind of rituals and the kind of spiritual traditions that we have. No. I'm not talking about only that part of it. I'm talking about Indian knowledge tradition. So there is something called as a Guru Sishya Parampara. What it happened is that every particular field had a continuity of upgrading or continuous learning in that particular field. A very simple example, let's say Ayurveda. Okay, so I think Ayurveda is known as one of the very prominent field of medical research today. And today we find, jadi booty, the word we call about it, to find some vaccines or something like jadi booty. Now, if you look at some of the knowledge traditions, generations after generations, they used to do a research on that particular field and come out with newer insights. So we had a research tradition. And I would say that it's a myth that India only had an agricultural economy. Okay. So it'd be surprised if you go back to the villages of India, and I'm talking about every single village. If you just go back, you'll be surprised there were 16 identified professions in every single village. So farming is just one of them. And every village in India had a goldsmith and a blacksmith. It was a very highly decentralized model. So it is not about that mass production somewhere, somebody is producing some gold and it is just, distribution and operations and supply chain. We had decentralized units in every village of India. So just go back. I'm not even talking about some thousands of years ago. I'm just talking about 2 generations ago. I think most of us who are here would have this particular base of some village, isn't it? Go back. And today there are still surnames like Sonar or Soni. And if you just go back into that history, you'll be surprised to know that actually they were from the goldsmith community. And this is village, okay? I'm talking about a specific village. And imagine the same village also had a blacksmith. What does that indicate? That we are very good in decentralized model of metallurgy. So it is not some research happening. It's happening in every single village. And there used to be collaborative efforts. So, okay, so every village had a blacksmith, a goldsmith. By the way, there was also textile industry in a decentralized format in every village. So farming is one of them. Okay, but we had so many models. That's exactly why if you go to and study the Indian model, they said the Indian economy actually consists of 3 combinations. I'm talking about the ancient Indian economy, but not very, very ancient, as I did 2-3 generations ago. The first one is called village economy. The second one is called temple economy. And the third one is called family economy. Very interesting model. So the village economy, very decentralized, but very self-sufficient. So when Mahatma Gandhi went across the, when he came back from South Africa, his political guru, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, told him that you have to go across India to understand what is India. And that's when he realized this economic model was broken. And he said, let's start the village economy again by decentralizing the textile industry using charkha. Okay. Temple economy. I mean, there are so many stories, and we have discovered temples having this huge gold reserves. Not only Tirupati, but Padmanabha Swami Kshetram right there in Kerala, and every village, by the way. Okay, so it's a very interesting model. So why am I telling you this particular point is that we need to understand continuity of knowledge. So they were field, you have to do continuous research. And that's where I think all as business leaders of today and tomorrow, we need to focus on continuous research and upgradation of knowledge. We talk about this, but we have this particular model that Chanakya spoke about. Whichever field you are, become a Vijigishu, world best. And so it's like playing sports. You want to play it for fun, but you want to really play it well, then go for the World Cup or an Olympic gold medal. And what's wrong? You're beating not that competitor. I think you are trying to beat yourself first. The biggest competition is with I, me, myself. So I think this is where leadership is not just about the power position. It's about beating yourself again and again and again and again till you become number one in your field globally. And therefore, I come to the third point, which I was mentioning, and probably my last point. A leader is the one who creates more leaders. A very, very important aspect in business as well, and in governance as well. Even in nations, you find that. And that is called succession planning. One of the biggest problems is that, once the leader goes away, the whole organization collapses like a pack of cards. But it's important that when you get into leadership position, you institutionalize leadership. So you don't just create leaders, but a leader institutionalizes the whole leadership process. So let me give an example. Let's say an army, not only Indian army, but any armed forces across the globe. So it's not about who is the leader. It's an institution that keeps creating leaders. If they just ask you, tell me who is the current head of the Indian Navy, Chief of Indian Navy, or Chief of Indian Air Force, or even Chief of let's say Indian Army. Half of you may not even know the name, but that's the good news. It has a leader, it has a Chief of Navy, Army, Air Force, but the institution is so big that it doesn't matter. And by the way, if one retires, the other one is ready. Interestingly, 10 more capable people are ready. So the problem is not about leadership. The problem is choosing among the best leaders available. So you're choosing the best among the best. Isn't that good? That's how the institution continues. Whenever an institution, an organization, a business, or a country is dependent on one person, that's where the danger is. And Chanakya clearly said that, I will not allow Chandragupta Maurya to be the only face of this nation. So institutionalize the whole process. In the Arthashastra, there is a complete lesson of how to plan your succession. And look at that generation where maybe a leader had multiple wives and multiple children. So maybe you have to choose between the 20 best options, and you have to manage their egos, you have to manage their performance. How do you select those leaders of the next generation? The good news is that Chanakya had a process to actually identify leaders, train leaders, create leaders, and continue leadership. And that's why one example from his life, which I like to quote, is that he also made sure that after Chandragupta Maurya, his son was Bindusar and Ashoka. Ashoka actually went on to become a global emperor. So Chanakya is not about Chanakya and Chandragupta. He's also about Ashoka. He trained Ashoka, and the greatest contribution of Ashoka is that he became a global leader. So of course, he's very well known for his Kalinga war, which happened in India. But his strategy to actually take, Indian concepts abroad, across the globe, was Buddhism. And let me tell you, it's quite surprising that many people don't know this. But if you just Google the world's oldest surviving company, okay, you can Google it right now, later, whatever, the world's oldest surviving company. You'll be surprised that's in Japan. I will not say the company's name. You can Google it. And you'll be surprised to know this company has been existing for 1,500 years. Okay? Can you believe that? A company can have succession and survive for 1,500 years. Now you may surprise, so what? Now here is the beauty of it. You see the company, you know what the company does? It's actually doing something phenomenal with an Indian concept. It actually constructs Buddha statues. Yes, it actually constructs. So it's into the construction field, but specifically. So if you look at, many countries, especially go to Thailand and China and a lot of other parts of the globe, you'll see that huge statues, and it's like statue making is a specialization by itself over thousands of years. There's Ashoka, who actually took the concept of Buddhism and Buddha across the globe. He was a true Vijigishu. Without fighting a battle outside India, he actually conquered the world. That's philosophical king called Rajarishi. So friends, you don't have to be into the field of competition and arrogance that comes in, that survival of the fittest. No, live and let live. So Chanakya brings in the collaborative model and saying that you can be a king in your field, I can be a king in my field. I will be the world best in my field, you be the world best in your field. And that's good for humanity. It's not just good for the individual. I think we all require to think like leaders plus collaborative methods. So leadership is also about succession planning. And one of the beautiful institutions that Chanakya built is Guru Sishya Parampara. So that you train the next and the next and the next. So the continuity grows on. And one of the challenges we find in leadership succession is that, you don't want to share your knowledge. In fact, Chanakya says this very clearly: a leader should think like a parent. A parent is very happy when your children perform better than you. Have you heard about parents being jealous of their children? So if your child is doing better than you, feel like, wow, he's my product. Remember that? So how many of you will take that, kind of systematic thinking that, my next generation will be better than my generation? That's growth for the organization, that personal growth, and more important, that is what we generally call as sustainability. Otherwise, you are the best, everything is good. You are gone, everything gone. No. So Chanakya wanted continuity of leadership so that the nation, the organization survives beyond you. So friends, I'd like to quickly sum it up, and we can have more time for Q&A and discussions rather than just looking at Chanakya. So life lessons from Chanakya, as I told, the first thing is to think like a leader. Again, think means also train yourself like a leader. I'm sure Manishji will announce the courses that we offer over here. They're all leadership programs. You should participate, and you will get global, kind of an approach to leadership. So think like a leader. That's not enough. When you get a leadership position, perform. Otherwise, it's one-time leader and it's gone. No. I think the organization should keep giving you more and more higher and bigger responsibilities. Okay, so perform like a leader. But finally, before you exit, you make sure the leadership is institutionalized. A leader is the one who creates more leaders. So friends, that's from Chanakya's life right now. But I've written 21 books on Chanakya, right from Corporate Chanakya to a lot of other books. You can just Google it. A lot of audio books, a lot of research papers, been interested in academics and all, a lot of other stuff. But from the university that we all represent, the education field that we represent, welcome to the field of knowledge. Welcome to the field of management. Welcome to the field of leadership. Thank you so much. And I hand it over to Sinha sir for taking it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Pillai, that was an amazing session. I think in an era where a lot of people and a lot of leaders are only looking at that cutthroat competition, we should definitely reflect on Chanakya's model of collaboration and what he speaks about in there, and how to create that leadership path, how to make that institutionalized. I think Jeff Bezos very recently had that succession plan in place, and we'll see how it goes with Amazon. But that's absolutely necessary to do that in terms of big organizations, of collaboration and brainstorming, and that's how I think great leaders are born, right? Manish, I would like to very warmly welcome you to this webinar. Thank you for spending the time. Please, have your words, and then we can take up a few questions from here.
I think I can only say it was phenomenal, learning, think like a leader, get trained like a leader, act like a leader, deliver like a leader. What beautiful lessons, Dr. Pillai. And then you talked about the great team, like, Akbar and the 9 Ratnas. So Akbar knew that he didn't know everything. Akbar also knew there are more educated and, the more experienced, knowledgeable people than him. And he, created the army of those people, gave them the respect, brought them together, and depended on these people whenever he had the questions in the mind. So it's an absolutely amazing lesson. And the beautiful part you talked about, Doctor, was the taking decision versus arriving at the decision. I never thought from that perspective. It was beautiful learning, collaborative approach, continuity of learning and research, what's best, that jazba, that fire within to be the best in whatever you do. You don't need to do good in one area, whatever area you choose, because the world is open, democratized opportunities. In any area you do your best. That's where beautiful part is. Leaders create leader in institutionalized leadership. I mean, every lesson, every word spoken by you was phenomenal. It has gone into my mind like anything. I have written them down, think about it, reflect on those parts. Thank you very much for these phenomenal kind of, the sharing or the knowledge sharing with all of us. I really appreciate. Thank you very much, Shukirti, to you for the question and answer. And I really want to say thank you to Dr. Pillai for his time, for his perspective, kindness to share the knowledge and wisdom with all of us this evening. Shuk, to you for the question answer.
Great. Thank you, Manish. So we'll straight away get down to the questions. I see a couple of questions which are very interesting. So the first question is from Chanakya to now, how has India's economy changed? And is it a positive change or a negative one? Dr. Pillai, your thoughts on that?
Yes. Thank you, sir. So I would say change is the only constant. So if you look at the whole world, I think economy is changing every day. It is not about from that time to this time. So I think you have to accept that, the economic cycles keep changing. So there is also a power shift, economic power shift. So, this century was, maybe a British century, and now it's an American century, and now it's an Asian century. So you can go on and on. But coming back to your particular question, is it good or bad? It all depends, So it's a perspective, because there are two sides of the same coin. Imagine, let's say 1947, when India was decolonized, when the British rule ended. I think if you're born in that generation, you will say, oh my goodness, what kind of a generation I'm seeing, where there are no people to, actually have food to eat. We actually literally had to suffer with basic called roti kapda makan. So if you were in that, and you would have cursed everybody and said the worst economy that ever possible. We had brain drain in this particular country, a lot of things. But now if you look at this generation, I think it's the most happening place in the world. So it's the economy where, if you're born, and our children will say, what is this poverty stories you keep telling, what is this power cuts you're talking about? So a child who is born with technology will not even understand it. So definitely there are cycles in economy, and the economy will never be constant. Now, coming back to your question is that, has India economy changed? It has to change, it will change. But my question is not about change. My addressing point is whether the economy is evolving. It's a very, very, very different perspective of looking at the economy. Changing is okay. So, from here to there. No, I'm talking about that it's evolving. And what does it mean by an evolving economy versus a changing economy? Okay. An evolving economy means that actually the standards of life is also changing qualitatively, not just quantitatively. So let me give a specific example. Today, in the most developed economies, you are not asking about the GDP, but you're actually talking about happiness quotient index. So we say you have to balance both, let us have a growth phenomenon, no doubt about it. So that's very quantitative. But what about the quality of life? So you suddenly look at Bhutan differently and saying that it's a different economy. But I think it makes sense to be happy along with being prosperous. Otherwise, the economy that's growing can also have a lot of people having mental health problems. And that's exactly what we're seeing in many developed countries, where today we don't have people to speak to. I keep going to US very often, and I was, shocked when, outside the Grand Central Station, I actually saw a very nice board. I'm sure that it was some ad of the mayor of New York. And it was like saying there's an old lady and there is a helpline given over there, and saying that if you don't have anybody to speak to, please call this toll number. We are ready to listen. And suddenly it hit me, are we talking about an economy where old people don't even anybody to connect to, and the government literally has to tell them, you can call up us, we listen to you. So what I'm saying is that that's not the kind of a country that we want. That's not the kind of a world that we want. Forget countries. I think when a person becomes old, the only thing he requires is his friends, family, grandchildren around with them. So I think it's very important to you may be the richest person. In fact, quoting back Swami Chinmayananji, he said, you can be comfortably miserable. What does it mean? You can be the most luxurious place, very comfortable, you can have AC, you can have everything, but you can be miserable. So I think what's very important is that an evolving economy, or what we call as the matured economy, knows the balance between socio-economics, society and economics being balanced. So are you a happy society and also a prosperous society? Two Sanskrit words I like to bring in over. It's called Abhyudaya and Nishrayasa. So can you be happy and prosperous? outside and inside. That's what the kind of an economy. And let me tell you, Chanakya is a capitalist in one way. He says, Artha eva pradhanaha. Without economic prosperity, you will never get actual happiness. So he's clear. So clear your basics. But after getting your comforts, there is no guarantee. That's where spirituality comes in. And we are fortunate that the greatest saints, leaders, spiritual leaders were actually worldly prosperous first. Look at Ashoka, he was a king. Mahavira, who found the Jain religion. Krishna, for that matter. Rama, we call Ram Rajya. They were not failures of life. Material prosperity along with spiritual progress is the right economic model that we all need to have. That's the Chanakya method, according to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So we have another question, which is from Nihit. When it comes to leadership in career, which strategy works better? Do what you love versus love what you do. That's very interesting.
Very interesting question. It all depends on the individual. Some people discover what they love to do in the beginning only, and they make a career out of it. But some people discover it on the way, in the journey. So, let me give two examples. So look at Mahatma Gandhi. Okay? Just a simple example. He never, looked at being a global leader, world leader and all that, He just became a lawyer, not a leader. He became a lawyer, and then, he was doing his practice in South Africa. But suddenly a purpose hit him. It's very, very important. See, leadership is also equal to a higher purpose. You may be having a position of leadership, but if you're not having a purpose, you'll never be able to inspire people. So Mahatma Gandhi's great instance when South Africa was pushed out of a train, and then he suddenly says, no, I will not accept this. And imagine, he becomes a global leader by just finding a purpose. So Mahatma Gandhi, not trained to be a leader. I don't think he even loved that particular profession. Maybe he was trained in that profession. But what he really loved was, the concept of justice for all. And that made him one of those successful people. So two cases, some people are extremely good at what they love and they find their, focus. They find what their talent is. And the Sanskrit word is swadharma. So what you're naturally gifted with. I mean, just go for it and just make it big. So another great example from India, another Bharat Ratna, Lata Mangeshkar. That's her field of singing, music. She loved what she does right from her childhood. She made it big. But some people discover it. The question over here is that whatever you do, whether you discovered it later or discovered it first, don't forget to be a Vijigishu in your field. So if you do it world class. And pray to God that you find your purpose as early as possible. Leadership is equal to purpose, and the highest leader is Vijigishu at the global level. Thank you.
Great. I think the key word for everyone today is Vijigishu. To be the world conqueror at what they do. That should be the aspiration for everyone in the webinar and also outside, right? The other question is, how does a leader control and harness environments in which he operates? Sometimes there might be hostile environments as well. So what is a good conduct of a leader? How does he, carry himself?
Very nice question. I don't know what's your name, but the name looks like Smart Trade.
Smart Trade.
So you have to be smart before you actually go into controlling the environment. This is very interesting. Okay, the word controlling, that means there is something about that you want to, control is like, I want to be part of it. But I'll tell you, in leadership, more than control, it's directing. So that's why as you go higher and you become a managing director. So you're managing, but you're also directing. You never call a managing controller. So from a financial angle, you can have a financial controller and there can be checks and balances. But let me tell you, as you go higher and higher, you cannot be a policing organization. Please understand this. Otherwise, you are always operating out of doubt. So we are not here to doubt people. Of course, you have to test people. There has to be checks and balances. But it's very, very important leadership to understand that you need to direct the environment or create an environment which actually people are more productive. It's very important. I'll tell you, you should read up this very famous reports that comes out. It's called Great Places to Work. It's very popular, and there's worldwide reports, and now India reports are also coming out of it. And you'd be surprised, how does a leader control and harness the environment in which he operates? Actually, it's the other way around. Leader actually creates environment in which he wants his people to operate and be productive. Let me tell you, if you create that environment, there is nothing called as NPA. Every person is a performing asset, not non-performing asset, but you have to create that. It's not easy. Therefore, I recommend all of you to read this book called Built to Last. by Jim Collins, one of the most phenomenal books I've ever read. And he says, don't look at the output, look at the machine. If the machine is good, well-oiled, its latest technology, the output has to be good. So our problem is we look at people as a resource rather than looking at the people as a source. You can have the best machine, but that's not it. We can't get into 100% robotics. Even for robotics, you require natural intelligence, which creates artificial intelligence. So, this whole myth about everything can be automated cannot happen. So what is the important thing is that how do we actually make sure we have such an environment? Remember one thing, sometimes you're born into an environment which is very hostile, as you put it. It's okay, learn from them, but when you create an organization or when you get into a leadership position, change for the better. In fact, I would say don't even change your systems, transform your system. Every person who comes into the organization should feel energized. And that's exactly the report of, great places to work. If you look at Google and if you look at all those big tech companies, and unfortunately we have an Indian company, TCS also in that particular group. And I've seen TCS employees, they don't just work for money. They somewhere connect to a higher purpose. There's freedom, there is innovation, there is creativity, there is strategy, there is involvement, there is teamwork. So why am I telling that when you look at these words, then you say, wow, I have created an ecosystem in which people can feel as a part of the game rather than just playing the game to achieve a result somebody else tells us. So the word here is direction, not just, followership. Thank you.
Absolutely. Creating an ecosystem, I think one of the key outtakes, right? The next question is an extension of the previous question, actually. Should the leader be manipulative to manipulate environments in his favor so that he functions effectively?
No, don't be a manipulator, be a strategist.
True.
So there's a big difference between manipulation and strategy. So the manipulation is a shortcut and it's temporary, but strategy is long-term, it's visionary, it's futuristic. So I'll tell you what, this is where Chanakya sometimes comes into the whole thing that, the mind of the leader is very important. So, it's not about quick fixes, saying that, okay, 1, 2, 3, and it's done. That's okay. But, you need to have people whom you can trust. You can have people in the system. So, you free up your mind to think long-term. So, I find this very, very interesting that many times when you say people to make a vision plan, okay, and we do that in universities, especially when we look at, leaders and make a vision plan. You would be surprised, the younger you are, okay, you have a short-term vision, maybe 2-year plan, and today we make business plans for 5 years. Have you ever heard of any organization which has made a 300-year plan? I have seen them, okay. I have seen people actually making a 300-year vision plan. I said, 300-year vision. I said, yeah, I may not be there, but my vision will continue with the next generation. And I already given you a real example. You can Google it. Companies have survived for 1,500 years. And by the way, this is only documented. There could be many. So why am I trying to tell all of us that don't be manipulative. You are misusing your intellect to a limited capacity. Your human potential is so high. Be a strategist, look at the big plan, big picture and say, let's break up all the things. Manipulation is, it's like, having energy worth, probably 10,000 units and using it for 10 units. So you are at loss, think big, think large, have a strategy, have a roadmap, have a vision, have a plan. Manipulation nahi, strategy. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I think we want to be mindful of everybody's time, so we need to wrap this up. Dr. Pillai, it was an absolute honor to have you on this platform, sharing your vision, sharing your thoughts, and I'm sure a lot of people from here will take away very key pointers on how to develop themselves into a leader, because that's really, that will be an aspiration for a lot of people. And I strongly suggest also to look at Dr. Pillai's Leadership Institute. If you are interested in those courses, maybe you can take them up. And this is the platform that we envision for Smith School of Business, where we sort of connect the people from the thought leaders and the people who are looking into developing of their own. So with that, I'm very, very thankful to all the audience members who stayed for the 1 hour. Listening to Dr. Pillai. He has some excellent stories, excellent anecdotes to share with us. Manish, you would close with your thoughts, your final thoughts, please.
have only one word to say. Thank you very much. Dr. You have been absolutely enlightening, and I must say with folded hand, it was brilliant session. I loved every minute of it, every word of yours. Very inspiring, very motivating, and I hope people take a lot of things from here and execute. Not just clap, but execute. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful evening, and I look forward to meeting you sometime soon.
Manish sir and Sukriti sir, we look at a collaboration model with Smith School of Business and our institution. Let's take it forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. We will take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.